The date was June the 10th, 1912. It was a quiet, ordinary Monday morning in Villisca, Iowa. This small, simple town was just about to wake up from its peaceful sleep. And when it did, it woke up to pure terror. A horror worse than anyone's worst nightmare. Something truly awful, some evil force, had come in the dark of the night. It had crept into the Moore family's home, a place that was meant to be safe and loving. A home that once echoed with laughter and the happy sounds of family life. Now, there was just a deafening, chilling silence. A silence that screamed of the terrible things that had happened there. A darkness you could almost feel had fallen over the place. No one in Villisca was ready for what lay inside those four walls. The very air felt heavy, thick with a strange dread on that awful morning. It was a worried neighbor who first realized something was wrong. Mary Peckham noticed that the Moore house was strangely quiet, far too quiet. The family, who were usually early risers, hadn't started their daily chores. There was no smoke coming from the chimney, no sound of the children playing. An unsettling quiet hung over the property, so different from the usual morning sounds. She called out, no answer. She knocked on the door. Only silence answered. A horrible feeling started to grow inside her, a feeling that something was very, very wrong. This quiet wasn't normal. It was the silence of death. She knew, deep down, that she had to get help, to find out what horror lay hidden inside. When the door was finally forced open, the scene that met the first people there was beyond belief. It was like something from the deepest, darkest pits of hell. Blood, so much blood. It stained the floors, the walls, the beds. The entire Moore family, Josiah, Sarah, and their four young children, Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul, had been killed in their beds. Two young house guests, Lena and Ina Stillinger, sisters visiting from a nearby town, had met the same terrible end. 8 lives, wiped out in savage violence in a single night. The weapon, an axe belonging to Josiah Moore, was found at the scene, still showing the awful signs of how it had been used. The small town of Villisca was instantly plunged into shock and disbelief. News of the horror spread like wildfire, not just through Villisca, but across the whole state of Iowa and even further. A whole family, along with 2 young girls, wiped out, murdered in their sleep. The sheer brutality of it all was just staggering. The whole community was numb with fear. Who could do such a terrible thing, and why? Doors were locked, windows were bolted shut. People started to look at their neighbors with suspicion. No one felt safe anymore. The peace of Villisca was shattered forever. A dark presence, a human monster, was walking among them. And the terrifying part was, this monster was still out there. This wasn't just murder, it was a massacre, an event that would forever scar the town's history in the minds of its people. The victims, well, they were well-known and respected members of the Villisca community. Josiah Moore, 43 years old, was a successful businessman. He owned a thriving farm implement store. He was known for his hard work and his standing in the local Presbyterian church. His wife, Sarah Montgomery Moore, 39, was a devoted mother and active in church activities. Their children were Herman, 11 years old, Catherine, 10, Boyd, 7, and little Paul, just 5 years old. These were innocent children, their lives brutally taken in their own beds, places that should have been safe, their futures, their laughter, their dreams, all ended by the swing of an axe. It's truly unbearable to think about their final moments, a testament to the pure evil that took place. The Stillinger sisters, Lena, 12 years old, and Ina, 8, were friends of the Moore children. They'd come for a sleepover the evening before, June 9th, after attending the Children's Day exercises at the Presbyterian Church. They should have returned home full of stories of fun and play. Instead, they became unknowing victims of a predator who showed no mercy. Their parents would never see them alive again. The innocence of a childhood sleepover turned into a scene of unimaginable carnage. The whole town mourned not just for the Moores, but for these 2 young girls, whose lives ended so tragically, so far from their own homes, in a place they thought was safe. The crime scene itself was a picture of horror. Each victim had been brutally attacked with an axe, believed to be Josiah Moore's own. The blows were struck with such force that the faces were almost unrecognizable. The killer had moved methodically from room to room. Upstairs, Josiah and Sarah were found in their bed. Downstairs, the 4 Moore children and the 2 Stillinger girls were also in their beds. This wasn't a crime of passion, no sudden outburst. It was calculated. It was cold. It was systematic. The killer had taken their time, making sure no one was left alive to tell the tale of what they had witnessed or experienced. To make things even more eerie, all the mirrors in the house were covered with cloths. Every single reflective surface was draped. Why? Was the killer afraid to see their own reflection? Or was there some other, more sinister, ritualistic meaning behind this act? In the kitchen, a plate of uneaten food and a bowl of bloody water were found, suggesting the killer may have stayed in the house after the murders. A slab of bacon was found propped against the wall near the axe. These strange details added to the mystery and a deep sense of unease. The house itself seemed to be holding its breath, a silent witness to the terrible things that happened that night. The brutality of the murders was truly shocking. The local doctor, Dr. J. Clark Cooper, who was one of the first to examine the scene, said the killer must have been a madman, someone with superhuman strength. The victims' heads had been crushed. On the ceilings above some of the beds there were deep gouge marks from the powerful swings of the axe, showing just how fierce the attack was. This wasn't just a killing, it was complete obliteration. The axe, which belonged to Josiah Moore himself, was found in the downstairs bedroom where the Stillinger girls were, propped up against a wall. It was covered in blood, a ruthless predator's chilling calling card. The sheer force used spoke of a deep, cold rage. One of the most unsettling details was that all the mirrors and glass surfaces in the house had been covered. Sheets and clothing belonging to the Moore family had been used for this. This act has made people guess and wonder endlessly. Some paranormal theories suggest the killer did this so the victims' spirits wouldn't be trapped in the mirrors. Or perhaps, while doing such a terrible deed, the killer couldn't bear to see their own monstrous reflection. This detail adds another layer of psychological horror to the crime. It suggests a killer who was not only brutal but perhaps also superstitious or so mentally disturbed in a way that went beyond just violence. This makes the whole event seem even more ritualistic and planned. Another strange thing was a kerosene lamp placed near Josiah and Sarah's bed, its chimney removed and the wick turned down, unlit. A similar lamp was also found near the Stillinger girls' bed, also unlit. What was the purpose of these lamps? Was the killer planning to set the house on fire to destroy evidence, but then changed their mind or was interrupted? Or did they use the lamps to see their way around the dark house during their awful work? These unlit lamps are a chilling question mark, a piece of a puzzle that was never fully put together. They sit silently and eerily in the story, adding more layers to the mystery. After the murders, it seems the killer also performed some kind of ritual. After their deaths, they found cloths to cover the victims' badly damaged faces. This act, which seems the complete opposite of their brutality, is quite puzzling. Was it a sign of some strange kind of remorse? Or did they not want the dead eyes staring back at them? On the kitchen table, an uneaten piece of bread and a bowl of water with bloodstains were found. This suggests that the killer might have washed their hands and even tried to eat something after the massacre. Such nerve, such calmness to stay in the house after such an event is truly bone-chilling. It paints a picture of a predator completely lacking normal human emotions. The investigation into the Villisca Axe murders was full of problems right from the start. The crime scene, in today's forensic terms, was a disaster. Hundreds of curious townspeople went into the Moore house before it was properly secured. They touched things, moved them about, and without knowing, they messed up or destroyed potential evidence. Back in 1912, ways of looking into crime scenes were very basic compared to how we do things today. Fingerprinting was still a new science then and wasn't used much in countryside Iowa. Not having these forensic skills meant that important clues were probably lost forever, making it much easier for the killer to get away with it. The mess at the start really ruined any chance of solving things quickly. Over the years, many suspects were looked at, but no one was ever definitely found guilty. One was Frank F. Jones, who was an Iowa state senator and Josiah Moore's old boss and business rival. Moore had worked for Jones for years, then left to start his own successful company, and people said he'd taken business away from Jones. There were rumors that Jones had hired a man named William Blackie Mansfield to do the murders. Mansfield was suspected of being a serial killer, and people thought he was responsible for similar axe murders in other states too. In the end, both Jones and Mansfield were let off, or had the charges dropped because there wasn't enough solid proof, even though long investigations and trials had everyone gripped. Another main suspect was Reverend Lynn George Jacqueline Kelly. He was a traveling preacher who people said was a bit odd and not very stable in his mind. Kelly confessed to the murders, saying God had told him to slay utterly. He also knew details about the crime scene that hadn't been told to the public. But he later took back his confession, and after 2 trials, the first one had a hung jury, and he was found not guilty in the second. He was cleared too. The authorities were desperate to find someone guilty. The pressure was huge. But the evidence against Kelly, like with the others, was mostly bits and pieces, and because of his mental state, the final jury didn't think his confession could be trusted. With every year that passed, the case got colder. Leads dried up, witnesses' memories faded. The serious lack of solid proof, along with the messed up initial investigation, meant the Villisca Axe murderer would probably remain a ghost. The identity of the person, or people, responsible for so cruelly taking 8 lives remains one of America's biggest unsolved mysteries. This lack of an answer has only added to the house's dark legend. These unanswered questions hang heavy in the air, making it a perfect place for spooky stories and fear to grow. The killer literally got away with murder, a truly awful and scary thought. Section 5, Echoes of the Past, Restoring Villisca's Darkest Chapter. After those awful things that happened in 1912, for many decades, the Villisca Axe Murder House stood as a scary reminder of that unsolved tragedy. It passed through the hands of several owners, some of whom told stories of strange goings-on, odd noises, and a heavy feeling inside its walls. The house, a simple white wooden building, became a well-known, but not in a good way, landmark in that small Iowa town. It was a place people whispered about, a place where kids would dare each other to go near after dark. Its scary history had become part of Villisca's identity, like a constant chilling echo of that terrible night. The weight of the past hung heavy on the building, making it more than just wood and nails. Then in 1994, a big change happened. Darwin and Martha Lynn, a local couple, who were interested in saving history, bought the house. They saw its special, even if spooky, historical importance. They didn't want to make a big, shocking show of the tragedy, but to keep the site just as it was at the time of the murders. It was a huge job. They started a very careful restoration project. Their goal was to return the house to how it looked in 1912, making it a time capsule of that awful time. This meant doing lots of research on the furniture, wallpaper, and even how the rooms were laid out from that time, just like when the Moore family lived there. This restoration was a lot of hard work. The Lynns gathered furniture that was right for the time. They found wallpaper patterns that matched descriptions from back then. They also made sure things like clothes and children's toys were like what the Moore family might have had at that time. In 1912, the house didn't have electricity or indoor plumbing, so these modern things were removed or hidden to make the house look real. The idea was for visitors to step back in time and experience the house as much as possible like it was on that terrible night in June. Paying so much attention to the details is what makes the house so unsettling today. It feels like the Moore family just stepped out for a moment. The decision to restore the house got mixed reactions. Some people saw it as a way to honor the victims and save an important part of local history. Others thought it was a bit grim, a way to make money from a terrible tragedy. But the Lynns kept going. They wanted to make sure the story of the Moore family and the Stillinger girls wasn't forgotten. The restored house now stands as a clear and quiet memorial to one of America's most puzzling unsolved crimes. It's a real link to a past that doesn't want to stay buried, a place where the echoes of that awful night still seem to be felt in the floors and walls today. Section 6. Opening the doors to fear, a spooky tourist destination. When this careful restoration was all done, the Villisca Axe Murder House was open to the public. It wasn't just for history tours during the day. The owners made a brave, and for many people, a hair-raising decision. They decided to let visitors stay overnight. Yes, you heard that right. People could actually book the house. They could sleep in the very same rooms where those awful murders happened. This changed the place from just a local historical odd spot into a big destination for people interested in ghosts, ghost hunters, and folks who like scary things. They came from all over the country and, yes, even the world. The idea of spending a night in such a famous spooky place was so strong, people just couldn't resist. The house soon became famous as one of America's most haunted places. The horrible, unsolved crime and the real restoration, both together, created an atmosphere full of fear and excitement for anyone brave enough to go inside. The daytime tours give you a look into the history and those terrible events. But it's the overnight stays that get the most attention. Groups of people with their ghost hunting kit like EMF meters, voice recorders, and infrared cameras willingly lock themselves inside. They hope to talk to the spirits of the Moore family or the Stillinger girls, or maybe even meet the dark force that was responsible for their deaths. The darkness inside is very deep. This experience isn't for the faint-hearted, that's for sure. Many people who've stayed overnight talk about all sorts of unsettling things happening. Yes, the house is old, it creaks and groans like old houses do, but the experiences people talk about are much more than the usual noises of an old house. People say they feel a strange pressure, like unseen eyes are staring at them. They say that in some rooms, especially the children's rooms, the temperature suddenly drops for no reason. The air there can feel heavy, making it hard to breathe. These aren't just one or two things happening. Different groups report these things again and again, people who've never even met each other, but their stories are scarily similar. The chance to investigate such a historic and active spooky site is a big draw. Professional teams that look into ghostly things and new ghost hunters have both come to Villisca. They look for proof of life after death or clues about who the killer was. The house has been on many TV shows about ghost hunting, which has made its scary reputation even stronger. Every new story and every bit of so-called proof adds another layer to the hair-raising legend of the Villisca Axe Murder House. It's a place where the curtain between this world and the next feels very thin, almost like it's not there at all. It seems like the dead are not completely at rest here. Section 7. Whispers from the Unseen World, Paranormal Encounters and Eerie Evidence. There are loads of paranormal claims coming from the Villisca Axe Murder House, and they're really disturbing. People who go there often say they hear children's voices. Giggles with no one there or soft crying sounds often get picked up on audio recording gadgets. They call this electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs for short. These are sounds that your ears can't pick up when the recording is happening. Some folks claim they've heard a kid whispering, "Get out," or "He's still in here." They say objects move on their own. Doors are said to creak open or slam shut for no reason, even when there isn't a breath of wind. They say balls in the children's rooms roll across the floor as if an unseen hand is playing with them. These are classic signs of what they call a residual haunting, like an old recording playing over, or maybe clever spirits trying to let you know they're there. Many guests who stay overnight have talked about feeling actual physical things. They say they've been touched, poked, or even scratched by something they couldn't see. Cold spots are a common complaint. They appear out of nowhere and disappear just as quickly, often in the rooms where the children died. Some people have felt a really strong sadness or hopelessness come over them, especially in the main bedroom or the downstairs bedroom where the Stillinger girls were murdered. This passing on of feelings is a sure sign that spooky energy is sort of stamped onto the place. It's like the awful fear from that night has soaked into the very walls of the house, leaving a mark that can't be erased, one that people who are sensitive can feel. There's also lots of photo and video proof, though what most of it means can be seen in different ways by different people. People have caught weird light spots, orbs, and strange shadows in their photos. Some people say they've taken photos of mist or even ghosts you can see fully, but these are very rare and people often argue a lot about them. One of the things people see most often is shadowy shapes moving out of the corner of their eye. They vanish quickly when you try to look straight at them. This is a common thing to happen in places where there's a lot of spooky stuff going on. It's like the spirits are just a little bit beyond what we can fully understand, sort of living on the edge of what we know as real. Investigators have also said their equipment starts playing up. Brand new batteries run out really fast for no reason at all. In certain parts of the house, cameras just stop working. Audio recorders get weird interference on them. These techie problems are often put down to a strong, ghostly presence which might be able to mess with electronic gadgets. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, it's hard to ignore just how many of these stories come from the Villisca Axe Murder House, and how often you hear them. There's something about this place that's deeply unsettling. You just can't deny it. It's a darkness that keeps pulling people in. They're looking for answers, for a bit of a scare, or maybe to connect with whatever still lurks inside those blood-stained walls. This house certainly holds its secrets tight. Section 8. Does history repeat itself? The 2014 stabbing, a sinister parallel. The already dark story of the Villisca Axe Murder House took an even spookier turn on the night of the 7th of November 2014. More than 100 years after the original awful axe murders, violence happened once more inside its walls. Robert Stephen Lorson Jr., a paranormal investigator from Rhinelander, Wisconsin, was staying overnight in the house with a group. In the early hours of the morning, he was found with a stab wound in his chest that he had done to himself. This shocking event sent a new shiver of fear through the paranormal community and those who knew Villisca's scary history. It was an almost unbelievable echo of the past. According to reports, Lorson was alone in the southeast bedroom, the very same room where the two Stillinger girls were murdered in 1912. Many people think it's one of the most active paranormal hotspots in the house. His fellow investigators heard a cry for help and rushed to help him, finding him injured. He was airlifted to a hospital in Omaha, Nebraska, and thankfully he survived his injuries. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office investigated what happened. They found out that the wound was indeed self-inflicted. But the question that remained, the question that still gives people goosebumps today, is why? What made him do such a desperate thing in that particular room? The 2014 stabbing immediately drew strange comparisons with the original 1912 massacre. An overnight guest, who was there because of the house's haunted name, became a victim of violence. Even though he did it to himself, the fact that there was a weapon and bloodshed once again in that spooky house was very unsettling. Some paranormal experts guess that a dark spirit, maybe the same evil force that was behind the original murders, had influenced Lorson. They said that the house's bad energy could take over people who were not feeling strong and push them to do strange and dangerous things. It seemed like the house could still have a powerful and maybe harmful effect on people who dared to spend the night inside its walls. This event added another layer of fear to the Villisca Axe Murder House. It gave a clear warning that messing about with the paranormal, especially in a place with such a violent and sad past, comes with its own possible dangers. While many people visit for a thrill or because they're curious about history, The 2014 stabbing showed just how strong the feelings could be in such a place. It added to the story that this house isn't just a collection of old wood and historic bits and bobs, but a place with a real, active, and maybe evil energy you can feel. The darkness inside those walls felt more real and dangerous than ever before to many people. In a way, the house had claimed another victim. Section 9. A Fear That Stays. Villisca's never-ending spooky pull. More than 100 years have gone by since that awful night in June 1912. But still, the Villisca Axe Murder House keeps pulling people in, almost like a magnet. Its story is a powerful mix of unsolved mystery, brutal violence, and all the spooky claims. This mix makes sure it has its place in the history of American crime and spooky tales. The truth is, the killer was never caught, which means there was no real ending to it all. The Moore family and the Stillinger girls never got justice. This open wound in history lets guessing and fear keep growing, and it gets bigger with every 10 years that pass. The house stands as a sign of that fear, a constant scary reminder. The pull of the unknown is very strong. People are drawn to places like Villisca. They want to understand things that are hard to get your head round. They want to touch the edges of the supernatural world, or maybe just test their bravery in a really scary place. This house gives a rare chance to step right into a real-life horror story. It's not a film set, it's where a terrible, awful thing really happened, something you can hardly imagine. That realness is a powerful magnet. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow in a dimly lit corner can be taken as something more, something from another world. The house feeds on this hope and fear, and its reputation grows with the stories of everyone who visits. The spooky experiences that so many visitors talk about just add fuel to the fire. Whether they're real meetings with spirits of the dead, or just imaginations running wild in such a place, they add to the house's never-ending story. Those EVPs, things moving on their own, voices with no bodies, they all paint a picture that the spirits of Villisca are restless, maybe still looking for justice, or perhaps stuck in a never-ending loop of their last terrifying moments. It's this belief that keeps ghost hunters coming back, hoping to find real proof of life after death, or to finally solve the mystery of who swung that bloody axe. In the end, the Villisca Axe Murder House is still a place of deep sadness and unsettling mystery. It's like a dark mark on the face of small-town America, a reminder that darkness can hide under the most ordinary-looking things. Its never-ending spookiness shows the power of unsolved crimes and how much people are interested in scary and unsolved things. As long as its doors are open, people will keep coming. They'll come to hear the whispers of the past, to feel the chill that hangs in the air, and to face the scary truth that some places really are haunted forever by the echoes of awful events. The house waits, silent and watching,